Hello students, welcome to IMS GATE Academy. My dear students, we have come up with the quick revision through formulas. See, really students, our team of civil engineering, myself Sandeep Adari with All India GATE rank 192 in the year 2008 with 10 plus years of teaching experience. I have trained almost 20,000 students across the country. So if you are really interested for the quick revision through the formulas of geomatics, this session will really help you. And remember, my dear students, in our civil engineering, myself Sandeep Adari followed by Pratik Mishra, he will be handling environmental engineering. And we have Ankit Dongrial, who is a very good faculty for geotechnical engineering along with me. He will be discussing the foundation engineering. Apart from this, we are having a very good team for mechanical also, my dear students. We are proudly say that we have one faculty with Dr. Vijay Kumar, sir. He is an extraordinary faculty and he teaches mechanical and production engineering. And we have Atul sir also who will be teaching the mechanics. And we have Pragna sir who will be handling thermal engineering. And we have Saurabh sir who will be handling industrial management and operational research. So when you are really interested for civil and mechanical engineering, my dear students, this is the platform. Now, my dear students, I promise you, these 2 hours will help you to quickly revise the formulas of geomatics. Not only my session, my dear students, please encourage the civil and mechanical faculties to have a better picture of GATE preparation of 2023. So, I promise you students, from civil and mechanical team, we are going to give a quick revision through the formulas which are best suited for GATE 23. So if you are really excited, please like and share this session, my dear students. Now, today I am going to discuss. One second, students. Hello, my dear students. Today I am going to come with the session on geomatics engineering. Now, my dear students, what actually is geomatics engineering? Can you please let me know what is geomatics? If you want to measure the distance between 2 points, initially they used to measure using a chain or a tape. If they want to measure the angles, they used to measure using the compass. If they want to measure the vertical angles as well as the horizontal angles, they used to measure through theodolite. But when you want all these things to be automatically operated, then comes the instrument called total station. What actually is a total station? Total station is a combination of electronic distanceometer and electronic theodolite, my dear students. Coming to the photogrammetry, suppose if you are accessing an inaccessible areas, if the areas are inaccessible, you cannot fly there. Suppose the Indian Army has to reach some mountains where you cannot approach through roads. There we are going with the concept of photogrammetry. Really, it's my promise, my dear students, from civil and mechanical team in IMS GATE Academy, we are promising that this quick revision through formulas will definitely help you. So stay tuned to this channel and because myself Sandeep Adari and Dr. Vijay Kumar sir, he is the world doctorate and he has secured PhD also. He is an extraordinary professor in mechanical, especially in production. And we have very good team in civil, Pratik Mishra sir, as well as Ankit Dongrial sir. So students, if you are looking for civil and mechanical, this is the channel you have to look it for. Now, my dear students, today we will quickly revise the geomatics topic. So what exactly is geomatics? What exactly is geomatics? Now, my dear students, when I talk about geomatics engineering, what is the weightage of geomatics? Geomatics weightage is 4 marks, my dear students. How it has started for geomatics? To measure the distance between 2 points, we are going to use to measure with a chain or a tape. If you want to measure the angles, you are measuring with a compass. If you want to measure the vertical and horizontal angles, you are using to measure through theodolite. Once you automate all these things, you are measuring through total station. So the first topic today I am going to discuss is the photogrammetry. Today I am going to discuss about photogrammetry. So my dear students, When I talk about photogrammetry, what do you mean by photo? What do you mean by photo, my dear students? Photo is nothing but light. So here, what do you mean by photogrammetry means? It is the art of science of obtaining reliable information about physical objects by the process of recording, measuring and interpreting the photos. So I repeat the point again. Photogrammetry means it is the art of science of obtaining reliable information about the physical objects by the process of recording, measuring and interpreting the photos. So when I talk about photogrammetry, we have two types of photogrammetries. One is the terrestrial photogrammetry and next one we have is the, what is terrestrial photogrammetry called? It is also called as ground photogrammetry and next one we have is the aerial photogrammetry. My dear students, what is terrestrial photogrammetry? Terrestrial photogrammetry is nothing but ground photogrammetry. It is there, you will suppose whatever the video which is recording in this YouTube channel, this can be a ground photogrammetry because how I am recording? You are recording with a camera, with a photo plus theodolite. The instrument used for terrestrial photogrammetry is photo plus theodolite. We call it as phototheodolite. Now, what is aerial photogrammetry, my dear students? What do you mean by aerial photogrammetry? Aerial photogrammetry means here a camera is mounted on the aircraft and this is called flying height. Okay, a camera is mounted on the aircraft and the ground area is covered with the camera. That is called aerial photogrammetry. So what is aerial photogrammetry? Aerial photogrammetry is the photogrammetry or it is the branch of photogrammetry in which photos are taken with camera mounted on aircraft. So my dear students, the distance from the ground to the point of aircraft is known as flying height. This is known as flying height, my dear student. Now my dear students, coming to the most important part. So we have a scale. We have a formula for scale of a photograph. My dear students, in 2020 and 2021, we have a formula for scale. We have seen two questions from this concept itself in both the papers. So what is the scale of a photograph? So here when I talk about the scale of a photograph, the scale of a photograph is defined as the ratio of photo distance upon ground distance. The ratio of photo distance upon ground distance is known as scale of a photogrammetry. So when I tell you about scale of a photo, it is the ratio of photo distance by ground distance. So here we have a particular case, my dear students. Suppose if I consider this as a datum and this is the point where the camera is mounted, we assume this as flying height. We assume this as flying height. And if we consider the photo here, and this is called focal length. So if we consider the photo distance as small ab, if we consider the photo distance as small ab, and if I consider the ground distance as capital AB, the scale of a photograph is defined by the photo distance by ground distance. That can be written as focal length upon capital H, that is flying height. So my dear students, scale can be written on a plane surface. It is the ratio of focal length to the flying height, my dear students. Now coming to the case 2. What is case 2 here is? What is case 2 actually, my dear students? Suppose if we consider this as a ground surface and you are sitting on top of a building. If you are sitting on top of a building and this is the height of a building. This is the height of a building. And if you know, this is known as what? This is known as the photo distance and this is called as focal length and this is known as flying height. Okay? Scale can be defined as photo distance by ground distance. So from the similar triangle concept, scale can be written as F upon H minus small h. Here small h, these are very, very important formulas, my dear student. So what is small h here? Small h is nothing but the height of the object. Because you are standing on top of an object and you are trying to calculate the scale of a photograph. So here it will be equal to, scale is equal to f upon h minus h. Now my dear students, we have a case 3. If you are going for a irregular ground, if the ground surface is irregular, in this case, how to find out the scale of a photograph? How to find the scale of a photograph? See students, if you are liking mechanical and civil engineering, please subscribe our channel and share this session. And Vijay Kumar sir is coming live on January 22nd. We are also and Ankit Dongral is coming live on January 10th for foundation engineering. So I promise you, my dear students from civil and mechanical team, that you will get the best output or best of your concept from these 2 hours of quick revision through formulas. So here, my dear students, what is the formula here we are having is, if we consider this as the average elevation, scale is taken as f upon h minus h average. S is equal to, scale is equal to f upon h minus h average. So here what I have to take, this is flying height, and we are detecting this is photo distance and this is ground distance. So from similar triangles concept, my dear students, scale of a photograph is defined as photo distance by ground distance. So scale is equal to f upon h minus h average. So my dear students, there was a good question from GATE, and this year I am expecting this kind of question from the photogrammetry. Calculate the number of photographs. Suppose, my dear students, if you know the basic mathematics, this problem can be solved. So when you are reading, my dear students, when you are reading mathematics, basic concepts are very important. If you are studying matrices, why do you want to study matrices? To find out the unknowns. Actually, matrix is applicable in civil engineering in the concept of flexible matrix or stiffness matrix method. When you are discussing about matrix, you should understand the eigen properties and all. Those are the topics where you will get the good marks. So here, when I calculate the number of photographs, suppose, my dear students, if I consider this as the total area, if I consider this is the area of the land where you have to photograph, and if I take small a as the area of each photo, how do you calculate the number of photographs? How do you calculate the number of photographs? Number of photographs is equal to total area upon area of each photo. So this is a basic thing, my dear student. How do you calculate the number of photos? Total photo area divided by area of the each photo. Now, my dear students, actually if I assume the length of the photo is small l and the width of the photo is w, actually the photos, you will have a overlap, my dear students. Actually there will be a overlap in the photos. Actually the photos will be like this, because the flight will follow a S path. While taking the photographs, the flight is going to follow a S path. So this is the reason where you will find the overlap of the photos. So my dear students, this is considered as longitudinal overlap. This is considered as what? This is considered as longitudinal overlap, and this is considered as side overlap. This is considered as side overlap, and usually the side overlap will be approximately 30% and the longitudinal overlap will be equal to 60%. Okay, my dear students, when they ask you how do you calculate the number of photographs, the number of photographs is given by the formula ground area, total area is capital A into L into 1 minus PL by S into W into 1 minus PS by S. So here, this is how you will calculate the number of photographs. So why I have calculated L minus L into PLB is because you should understand this. Remember, I will tell you a small example here, my dear students. Why do people require 2 eyes? If you want to pursue 3D, these 2 eyes are required. If you are seeing the avatar movie in 3D, just close one eye and observe the 3D. You cannot observe 3D. The importance of 2 eyes or the parallax angle is to find out the 3D perception. So this formula is very, very important, my dear students. So how do you calculate the number of photographs? The number of photographs is defined as ground area upon area of each photo, and this is the, they can ask you, this is the effective length of each photo, and this is the effective width of, each photo. And why you have divided with S? If you ask me, we are converting the photo units to ground units. To convert photo units to ground units, you will divide with scale. So please don't forget this point, my dear student. So actually, this formula, whatever this formula is adopted, this is adopted when area is given, my dear student. This formula is adopted when area is given. When the area is given, you have to adopt this formula. But my dear students, if you consider, if the width of the strip or the length in the direction of light and the length in the length that is in the direction of light, if the length is given in the direction of light, if the length is given in the direction of light and if the width is given in the perpendicular to the direction of light, if the width is given perpendicular to the direction of light, you cannot multiply. See students, most of the people will do this wrong. You cannot multiply L into W and make it area and follow the first method. You cannot do this. Here what you will do is, you will calculate the number of photos in each strip. This is one strip, right, my dear students? How many photos are there in each strip? You will calculate. After finding the number of photos in each strip, then you will multiply with the, what, students? Then you will multiply with the number of strips. So how do you calculate the number of photos? Is number of photos is calculated as N1 into N2. How do you calculate the number of photos? Number of photos are calculated as N1 into N2, where N1 is the number of photos in a strip, where N1 is the number of photos in a strip, and where what is N2 is? N2 is nothing but the number of strips, where N1 is the number of photos in a strip and N2 is the number of strips. So how do you calculate N1, my dear students? How do you calculate N1? Good evening, Gaurav sir. Good evening. Good evening, Gaurav sir. N1 is equal to L upon L into 1 minus PL by S plus 1. So this is the formula for N1. And what will be the N2 formula? N2 formula will be equal to W, capital W upon small w into 1 minus PS by S plus 1. This is the formula for N2. This is the formula for N2. What is N1, N2, my dear students? N1 is defined as the number of photos in a strip. Multiplied by the number of strips, you will get the total number of photos. So here when you calculate the number of photos, this is one of the important formula. Next. See students, we will talk about a concept called relief displacement. What do you mean by relief displacement? Relief displacement is defined as the lateral shift of the image of the object, or you can say a lateral shift of image of an object. Lateral shift of an image is known as relief displacement. Suppose if you see here students, if you consider this as a tower, if I consider this as a tower, okay, if I consider here a photo, okay, this is called principal point. We assume this as principal point, and this distance is known as, suppose, R, and this distance is known as R1. Okay. Now here, my dear students, if I take this as height of the tower and if I consider this as flying height, relief displacement delta R is equal to R1 into H upon capital H. This is the formula you have to do. Once you are solving this problem, my dear students, you should have an idea on the radial distance, what is R1, what is H, capital H and delta R. Here delta R is known as relief displacement. What is delta R? Delta R is known as relief displacement. And what is R1? R1 is the radial distance at R1 is the radial distance at top of the image. This you have to underline, my dear student. R1 is the radial distance, because R you have to underline this. What is capital H is? Capital H is the flying height. Capital H is the flying height. And H is the height of an object. H is the height of an object. Now, my dear students, in some other cases, there will be this tower will be sitting here also. It means they will give you height here, that the tower is sitting on top of a building or somewhere. Suppose if you see electric towers or cell phone towers, they will be on the 4th floor of a building. So that time you have to consider the height of a building also. That time you will get this value h minus height of the building. Okay. Thank you, Ajay Kumar, thank you. Now see students, I would like to tell you one important thing, students. What I would like to tell you is, now when I talk about photogrammetry, please, if you are really interested for photogrammetry, take this slide as a picture. So what is photogrammetry? What do you mean by photogrammetry? Means it is the art of science of obtaining reliable information by the process of recording, measuring and interpreting the photos. So when I talk about the formulas here, scale is given by the formula F upon H, or scale is given by the formula F upon H minus H, or scale is given by the formula F upon H minus H average. So here what is F? F is known as focal length. F is known as focal length. And what is capital H? Capital H is known as flying height. Capital H is known as flying height. What is here? What is small h here? Height of an object. Okay, this is in case of average. Here in case of irregular ground, we use this formula. How to calculate H average means you can write H1 plus so on up to Hn divided by n is equal to H average. So these formulas we have seen in 2019 and 20, every year one question. So if you are writing, good evening Rakesh Verma, good evening Rakesh Verma. So here what is scale here is F upon H, F upon H minus H and F upon H minus H average is the formula. Next, this is another important formula. Here what I would like to tell you, relief displacement is equal to R1H upon capital H. Sometimes, my dear students, in assertion and reasoning, they can ask you, if the flying height increases, what is the relief displacement? If the flying height increases, relief displacement decreases with increase in flying height. And relief displacement increases when radial distance to the top increases. Or you can say relief displacement increases with increase in height of the object. So whenever you talk about calculating the number of photos is taken by the formula AS square upon L into 1 minus PL into W into 1 minus PS. My dear students, what is capital A? Ground area. What is S? Scale. What is L? Length of the photo. What is PL? Percentage of longitudinal overlap. What is W? You can say width of the photo. What is PS? Side overlap. So this is how you will calculate the number of photos when ground area and area of each photo is known. Similarly, if you want to calculate the number of photos, see my dear students, they can give you, as I told you, if the length in the direction of flight and if the width perpendicular to the direction of flight is given, then N1 into N2, that is number of photos in a strip multiplied by the number of strips will give you the total number of photos. As I told you, N1 is given by the formula L into 1 minus PL by S plus 1. Similarly, how do you get W is, N2, how do you get W? N2. 1 second, student. How do you get N2? N2 is capital W upon small w into 1 minus PS by S plus 1. And PL usually, will, if they have not given in the problem, it is 60% desirable and PS is 30%. So my dear students, whenever you are writing an exam on photogrammetry, I can expect these are the basic important formulas. I hope you are clear. Now coming to surveying introduction, my dear students, if you really like this session, please share to all your friends. In civil and mechanical, we have an extraordinary team, my dear students. So the intention of these sessions are, we want to help the students to quickly revise the formulas and to get the concepts in short time so that they will feel comfortable for the end of the GATE exam. So when they are writing the test series, All India, we are also providing free mock test series. That is All India mock test series for every student. We are providing freely for almost for 12 test series. And these test series, we are providing the video solutions also. If you are really interested, you can visit our website, IMS GATE Academy. And as I told you so many times, we are proudly say that in mechanical engineering, we have a very extraordinary professor, Dr. Vijay Kumar sir. He has done his PhD also. He is an extraordinary faculty in PhD. Sorry, in production engineering. Sorry for that. Now we will coming into the introduction of surveying. So when I talk about surveying, why do you want to study about surveying? So when you start about surveying, my dear students, what are the objectives of surveying? So what are the objectives of surveying? Why do you want to study about surveying? Sir, my dear students, the objective of surveying, if you go to a village, what you will find? They will ask you how many acres you own, what is your building area, what is the, if you have constructed some flat in Bangalore, they will ask you what is the plinth area of your flat or what is your foot area of the flat. So all these things can be done by surveying. So surveying, the main objective is to find area, volume, if you want to find the volume of a water tank and other related quantities. So the objectives of surveying are to find the area, volume and other related quantities. The second objective of surveying is to find the, suppose if this is a level surface, whether a point is above the surface or whether a point is below the surface, we are trying to find out. Whether the point is above the surface or below the surface, we are trying to find out these things. And remember, my dear students, if you want to do some survey, you should have some prominent mark. Suppose if you see Vidhan Sauda in Bangalore, you will recognize that it is Bangalore. If you see Charminar, you will see that it is Hyderabad. Similarly, if you see like different statues or prominent things, then you can easily identify the India. If you see the parliament, you can easily identify that is Delhi. Similarly, like that, for every city, there will be a prominent mark. So this is what actually the objectives of survey. Now, my dear students, when you go for any interview, this is the quite common question they can ask you. What is the principle of surveying? What is the principle of surveying? Students, I have a small question for you. The principle of surveying, can anyone tell me what is the principle of surveying? The principle of surveying is nothing but whole to part. The first thing is whole to part. So how many of you know what is differentiation and what is integration? Do you know what do you mean by differentiation and what do you mean by integration? See, differentiation is the thing. You have a whole body, in that you are taking a particular part and you going to analyze. And if you combine all these parts to become a whole body, that is called integration. Combination of combining the small elements is integration. Out of the whole part, if you take a small part and you are doing the analysis, that is differentiation in the point of application of survey. So why they have not written part to whole? Why they have written whole to part? The reason for whole to part is the errors will not accumulate. Accumulate means the errors will not add. The errors will be going to reduce. If you take part to whole, the errors will be going to increase. So here the principle of surveying is whole to part. And the second principle is, if you know 2 points, students, you can plot the third point by dropping a perpendicular bisector. Or if you know 2 points with some angles and they intersect at some point, and you can plot. So plotting a third point with respect to 2 known points is nothing but the principle of surveying. What exactly is principle of surveying, my dear students? The principle of surveying is nothing but working from whole to part or locating a point with respect to 2 known points. That is known as the principle of surveying. Now, my dear students, actually we have 2 types of surveying. One is geodetic surveying, and another one is plane surveying. Now, my dear students, when I talk about geodetic surveying, when I talk about geodetic or plane surveying, it is simple. How actually the shape of the earth, is like this. So, if anyone asks you what is the shape of the earth is oblate spheroid. It is similar like an egg. The actual shape of the earth is oblate spheroid, and we call this as polar axis, and polar axis distance is 12713 kilometer, and this is known as equatorial axis, and this is 12756 kilometer. The difference between polar axis and equatorial axis is 43 kilometers. This can also be asked in any of the objective thing. Apart from this, my dear students, if you want to know what is geodetic and plane table, I'll give you a small example. Suppose, my dear students, we have 2 points A here and we have a point B. Now, if you are measuring the distance like this is called as geodetic. Means the surveying in which curvature is taken into account. If you are measuring in this way, this represents plane surveying. So, what is a geodetic surveying? A surveying in which the curvature is taken into account is known as geodetic surveying. The surveying in which curvature is not considered is known as plane surveying. So when I talk about geodetic surveying, it is a surveying in which curvature of the earth is considered, and the plane surveying means curvature of earth is not considered. You can write here, curvature of earth is considered. Now, my dear students, okay, see, for a distance of 18.2 kilometers, if you consider 18.2 kilometers, for a measurement of 18.2 kilometers, the difference between geodetic and plane surveying will come as 1 centimeter. So, for every distance of 18.2 kilometers, 1 centimeter difference will come. That is the reason, my dear students, geodetic surveying is helpful for the surveying of large areas. If you are going with small areas, then you can go with plane surveying also. But everyone recommend you to geodetic because the curvature of the earth is considered. Next, my dear students, here we are going to discuss about the different types of surveying. Here we are going to discuss about the different types of surveying. So when I talk about the different types of surveying, the first surveying is called control surveying. The first surveying is what, sir? The first surveying is known as control surveying. So what exactly is control surveying? When do you say that a survey is control surveying? Means here the control points are identified. Here when I say control surveying means the control points are identified, or the control points are developed. You can say not identified, establish the control points, you can say. See students, here this control survey is done by Survey of India, and which principle it will use? It will use the principle of geodetic because the results will be accurate. This is important thing, my dear student. The principles used by geodetic surveying by Survey of India are geodetic surveying. Apart from the control surveying, we have topographic survey. So what exactly in the name of topography, what you will do? In topography survey, my dear students, you are going to plot the natural features. You are going to plot the natural features like rivers. You are going to plot the natural features like what, my dear students? Rivers, hills, mountains. So when you are trying to plot the natural features like rivers, hills and mountains, topographic surveying will helpful. Topographic survey. Next one we have is, we also have cadastral survey. What is cadastral survey, my dear students? What do you mean by cadastral survey? Cadastral survey is done by whom? Cadastral survey is done by a revenue engineer to find the area of a field. Then we will go with cadastral survey. Similarly, my dear students, if you want to go with engineering survey, suppose if there is a drainage laid. So if there is a drainage laid, how do you find out the drainage? Means how do you find out the path of the drainage? So actually there should be a natural slope so that the water can be flow easily by gravity. So it will be done in the case of roads or drainage or pipeline design. In that case, we will be going with engineering survey. Similarly, my dear students, if you want to study about the water bodies, suppose if you want to know the depth of a channel or anything, you will go with hydrographic survey. You will go with hydrographic survey. The survey which is done for water bodies is known as hydrographic survey. And if you want to know for underground works, the survey which is done for underground works, that is mines and all, when you are doing for underground works, that is coal extraction and everything, then in that case you will be going with what, my dear students? You will be going with that underground works, you can say mine survey. You will go with what? Mine survey. So whenever, now my dear students, if you want to know the absolute location of a point, then you will go with astronomical survey also. See, actually this is a common question everyone I will ask you, my dear students. What is the difference between a plan and a map? See student, this is not a gate question, but I want in your practical point of view, what is the difference between a plan and a map? Whenever you are talking about a plan and a map, a plan undergoes orthographic projections. A plan undergoes what, sir? Orthographic projections, that is perpendicular. See, if the and the scale will be large here. Here the scale will be large. When we talk about map, there can be some relief and the scale will be small. Suppose if you want to know the Hyderabad or Visakhapatnam, then to find the area of a city or anything, then you will go with a map. But that is the simple example. If you want to know for a building or anything, you will go with the plan. Is it clear, my dear students? Okay. Now, my dear students, next thing what I would like to tell you here is we have already observed what is the difference between. Now, this is another important thing, students. Error due to wrong scale. Error due to wrong scale is, so here, error due to wrong scale, when we talk, corrected length is equal to, they can give you like this, my dear students. See student, if anyone asks you what is the difference between scale and representative factor, scale can be in different units, but representative factor should be in same units. So when I talk about the corrected length, RF of wrong scale upon RF of wrong scale upon RF of correct scale, RF of wrong scale upon RF of correct scale into measured length is known as RF of wrong scale into correct length is equal to RF of wrong scale upon RF of correct scale into measured length. Now similarly, corrected area is equal to RF of wrong scale upon RF of correct scale whole square into measured area. So here why the whole square has came, my dear students? Why the whole square has came? Because the measurement is done in lengthwise as well as widthwise. So there can be two errors. That is the reason we have got this value. Similarly, my dear students, if they give you shrinkage or error due to shrinkage, they can ask you what is the error due to shrinkage. What is the error due to shrinkage? When they ask you what is the error due to shrinkage, you have to remember here, error due to shrinkage is defined as, first of all, you will have a, first thing is shrink scale, means error due to shrinkage. What is shrinkage factor? They can ask you. They can ask you when they ask you about error due to shrinkage. first thing they can ask you to what is shrinkage factor. See, what is shrinkage? If you put a cotton cloth in a water, it will get shrunk. So it is a reduction first of all. So shrinkage factor is defined as the ratio of, shrinkage factor is defined as what, my dear students? It is defined as the ratio of shrunk scale upon original scale. The ratio of shrunk scale upon original scale is known as shrinkage factor. So here please understand that what is shrinkage factor? Shrinkage factor is defined as the ratio of shrunk scale upon original scale, and remember shrinkage factor is always less than 1. Why? Because it's a reduction. Shrunk length will be all, okay, sorry, here please write down this small thing. It is not shrink scale, amma. You can, sorry. You please write it as shrunk length upon actual length or original length, you can write. Okay. Similarly, shrinkage factor is always less than 1. Now, if they ask you what is corrected area, if they ask you what is corrected area, shrinkage factor upon, sorry, you can write here measured area upon shrinkage factor whole square. Or they can ask you corrected length. Corrected length means measured length upon shrinkage factor. What is ML means? Measured length. I will give you one example, students. If they give you what is shrunk scale. Good evening, Amit, good evening. So here when they give you, suppose if a line, they can give you one problem. If a line 10 centimeters on measuring measures as 9 centimeters or shrunk to 9 centimeters. The actual area is, sorry, the measured area they can give you as, measured area is 81 meter square. What will be the corrected area? So whenever these kind of problems are asked, shrinkage factor is defined as shrunk length by actual length. So it has shrunk to 9 centimeters. Actually initially it is 10, but it has reduced to 9. So shrinkage factor is shrunk length by actual length. So it will be equal to 0.9. If you want to know the corrected area, measured area is how much? 81 meter square divided by 0.9 whole square. 0.9 whole square is 0.81. 0.81 by 81. This is equal to 100 meter square. Okay. Is this clear, my dear students? Is this clear? Okay. Next, my dear students, we will talk about the compass surveying. Actually, we have to discuss chain surveying. After compass, I will be talking about chain surveying. So, what is a compass surveying? See, students, actually, when you are trying to measure distance between 2 points, you use either chain or a tape. But if you want to measure a distance which is on a ladder, or when you are climbing a hill like a ladder, if you want to measure this distance is measured only if you know the bearing. So what is a compass surveying, my dear students? A compass surveying is a branch of surveying in which the direction, because this angle will tell you about the direction. Compass surveying is a branch of surveying in which the direction of the survey lines are measured with the help of a compass, and the lengths are measured using a chain or a tape. So my dear students, when we talk about meridian, see my dear students, in engineering mathematics, whenever you are discussing about engineering mathematics, the application oriented learning is very important. I'll give you why I have told this meridian. Suppose most of the people, you are aware or not, I just want to ensure that you are aware. Suppose in engineering mathematics, you will study about differentiation concept. You will have integral factor and all. So first of all, when you study engineering mathematics, I would like to emphasize on one important thing. The thing here is, when do you say that bending moment is maximum? When do you say that bending moment is maximum? You will say that bending moment is maximum and shear force is 0. Agree or not? How do you say that shear force is 0, bending moment maximum? So the actual mathematics is here, my dear students. For a function to be maxima or minima, its differentiation should be 0. Luckily, the differentiation of bending moment is shear force. That is the reason when shear force is 0, bending moment is maximum. Similarly, why I have told about mathematics here is when we talk about meridian. So when you plot 1, 2 student, how do you say that it is first quadrant? Because both are positive and you will plot this point with respect to origin. Similarly, meridian is also known as a fixed line of reference about which the angles are referent, about which it is a fixed line of reference. You can say a meridian is nothing but a fixed line of reference. A meridian is nothing but a fixed line of reference about which it is a fixed line of reference about which the angles are measured. So that is known as what, my dear students? Meridian. So here when I talk about the meridian, we have different types of meridian, my dear students. One is true meridian. Next one we have is the magnetic meridian. Next one we have is the magnetic meridian. Next we have is the grid meridian. And next one we have is the arbitrary meridian. So when we talk about the different types of meridians here, so what is a true meridian? A line joining true north and true south. A line joining true north and true south is called true meridian. A line joining magnetic north and magnetic south is magnetic meridian. What is grid meridian? Usually in the USA, they follow this strategy. The entire area will be divided into grids and they will take the central portion somewhere here. They will take this central portion as reference and they will be doing the survey. That is called grid meridian. What is arbitrary meridian? Suppose you are going in Bangalore towards the Vidhan Saudha or towards Majestic. You will take Majestic metro as reference. But when I am going towards KR-Puram, I will take Baipanhalli metro as my reference. So according to your convenience, which one you will be taking, that is called arbitrary meridian. So these are, meridian means, you remember, it is a fixed line of reference about which the angles are measured. Similarly, my dear students, when you talk about bearing, there is also a concept called bearing. Bearing means it is the angle between the meridian and the survey line. See here, the angle between the meridian and the survey line. So what is bearing means? It is the angle between the meridian and the survey line is known as bearing. Similarly, in bearing also we have different things, my dear students. We have is true bearing, magnetic bearing, we also have grid bearing, and we also have arbitrary bearing. So when I talk about these type of things, what actually true bearing? A bearing with respect to true meridian is known as true bearing. A bearing with respect to magnetic meridian, magnetic bearing. A bearing with respect to grid meridian is grid bearing. So we have different types of bearing. What do you mean by bearing is? Bearing is the angle between the meridian and the survey line. Now, my dear students, please try to understand this concept. Very important, I can say you. Every year we are seeing the question from this actually. Not from this. If you know this concept only, you can solve the problem in compass surveying. So here when I talk about the whole circle bearing. Whole circle bearing. Now what exactly is whole circle bearing? Remember, my dear students, first of all, whenever you are understanding whole circle bearing or reduced bearing, try to understand the diagram. Suppose if I have drawn a line like this, okay, and we have a lines like this, and we have, this is north, and this is south, and this is east, and this is west. So this is alpha, if I take this as O and this as A, and this will be beta, okay, and this will be gamma, this I will take it as B, and this is C, and this is D, and this will be taken as delta. So here, whenever you see the diagram, my dear students, it is what? Beta. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So whatever the angle which is measured here, everything is measured from true north. What is whole bearing system? A bearing, or you can say bearing of a line is always measured from true north and also in clockwise direction. That is the important. Here the bearing varies between 0 to 360 degrees. The bearing in whole circle system varies from 0 to 360, and this whole circle bearing system is also known as azimuthal system. And which compass will be calibrated with this system is prismatic compass will be calibrated with this system. So what do you mean by whole circle bearing? Whole circle bearing, the bearing of a line is measured always from true north. It varies from 0 to 360 and it is always measured in clockwise. Prismatic compass is calibrated with this system, and whole circle bearing system is also known as azimuthal system. Next we have is the reduced bearing. Next one we have is the reduced bearing. Now what do you mean by reduced bearing here? So here when I see about the reduced bearing, when I see about the reduced bearing here, we have here O, this is A, this is B, and this is C, and this is D. And here we call it as alpha, this is beta. Now see the direction, my dear students. This is gamma and this is delta. From here the diagram, what do you mean by reduced bearing? Here the bearing is measured either from north or south. Okay, here see the students, here the direction. Here it is measured from either from north or from south, whichever is nearer. And here the bearing is not varying between 0 to 90. It is not, means here I will tell you. This is an important point. In reduced bearing is also called as quadral bearing. First of all, reduced bearing is also known as quadral bearing. Okay. And remember, my dear students, how do you conversion of basic, if you see, how you can ask me, how do you convert whole circle to reduced bearing or reduced bearing to whole circle bearing? That is basic aptitude, sir. If you know 10th class also, you can solve that conversion from one to another. So what actually is reduced bearing? Reduced bearing is nothing but quadral bearing. So here, what do you mean by quadral bearing here is, it varies from, reduced bearing varies from 0 to, reduced bearing varies from what, sir? Reduced bearing varies from 0 to 90 degrees. Next thing, bearing of a line is always measured from either north or either from south, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever is nearer. That is the point I would like to tell you. Which compass is calibrated with reduced bearing is prismatic compass. So prismatic compass is calibrated with this system. So I hope, my dear students, this is one of the important thing. And one more thing they are very much asking, my dear students, when do you say that a triangle is well conditioned? It was a GATE 2021 question, my dear students. When you say that, when it is a well conditioned triangle is, see, my dear students, when theta is not less than 30 degrees or when theta is not greater than 120, means if any one of the angles should vary between 30 degrees to 120 degrees. Means if you have three angles in a triangle, any one angle cannot be more than 120 or cannot be less than 30. Then if any one of them, you say that it is ill condition. If this condition is not satisfied, then it is called what? Then it is known as ill-conditioned triangle. Then it is called as what, my dear students? Ill-conditioned triangle. Now, when do you say that? Remember, this geomatics subject will be also helpful if you are writing civil engineering geomatics paper. My dear students, in geomatics paper, if you are writing, this subject will help you there also. And similarly, if you are going for civil engineering, environmental engineering also, We have an extraordinary professor, Mr. Pratik Mishra. Sir, he will also teach you environmental. Whenever you are studying environmental and geomatics, there are separate papers. Apart from civil engineering, you can attempt geomatics also. So please understand the importance of this subject. So if any one of these condition is not satisfied, then we'll say that it is an ill-conditioned triangle. Then we say that it is an ill-conditioned triangle. Next. Now see students, what do you mean by back bearing and what do you mean by forebearing? And what do you mean by back bearing and what do you mean by forebearing? Any doubts, my dear students? Quickly, what do you mean by back bearing and what do you mean by forebearing? So here, if I take a survey line, my dear students, if I take a survey line here, if I take this as AB, okay, bearing in the opposite to the direction of survey. Bearing opposite to the direction of survey is known as back bearing. Now, my dear students, if I take here forebearing, this is known as forebearing. Bearing in the direction of survey. Bearing in the direction of survey is known as forebearing, and bearing opposite to the direction of survey is known as what, my dear students? Back bearing. Bearing opposite to the direction of survey is known as what, my dear students? It is known as back bearing, and bearing in the direction of survey is known as forebearing. Now apply the basic maths. When you are studying mathematics also, engineering application oriented is very important, my dear student. Suppose here, so when I talk here, if this is forebearing, if I consider this as forebearing, and if I consider this as back bearing, okay, here we can take it as alpha, forebearing is taken as alpha, and this will be alternate angles. So how do you can write? Back bearing can be written as from the diagram, alpha plus 180. What is alpha here? What is alpha? Forebearing. So back bearing will be taken as, back bearing is equal to forebearing plus or minus 180 degrees. So when do you use plus sign is when forebearing is less than 180. When forebearing is less than 180 degrees, you will use positive sign. And my dear students, if I take a survey line in this way, okay, suppose, see, this case we have already proved. Suppose if the forebearing is somewhere here, suppose if the forebearing is this one, so this is the forebearing. Now what will be the back bearing means? Back bearing will be equal to this. In this case, this is forebearing. So back bearing will be equal to, back bearing is equal to forebearing minus 180. So in this case, when you will go is when forebearing is greater than 180 degrees. When forebearing is greater than 180 degrees. Am I clear, my dear students? Is this clear? Now, we have declination. What do you mean by magnetic declination? See, my dear students, mariners or sailors, they called magnetic declination as variation. What do you mean by magnetic declination, my dear students? Magnetic declination is defined as what? Magnetic declination is defined as variation. So you can write here what is magnetic declination is. It is defined as the difference between true bearing and magnetic bearing. The difference between true bearing, and magnetic bearing is known as magnetic declination. So here, my dear students, why they mariners or sailors, they call it as variation. True bearing is equal to, this is important, my dear students, magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. So true bearing can be taken as magnetic. So when do you use plus sign? Now plus sign will be used in case of eastwards. When the declination is towards eastwards, you will use declination as positive. And you will use negative sign when it is westwards. Actually, my dear students, I will give you a small suggestion when you are solving these kind of problems. Whenever you are solving true bearing and magnetic bearing and declination problems, try to understand this concept, convert them into whole circle. Even though problem is given in reduced bearing, convert them into whole circle bearing and try to solve the problem. Now see, my dear students, there was a question asked. If the declination is 2 degrees west. If the declination is north, south, west, east. If the declination is 2 degrees west. Okay. Now, if the true bearing, so if we have a line here, if the true bearing is 34 degrees, 30 minutes. Okay. What is the true bearing? It is 2 degrees west. What will be the magnetic bearing? So, if you extend here, it will come in this way. So, this will be 2 and vertically opposites, it will be 2 degrees. This is what, sir? This will be equal to true bearing. So, what is magnetic bearing means? Magnetic bearing is the bearing which is measured from magnetic north or south. So, this entire line, whatever this 2 degree, this angle, so here you can write it as 34 degree, 30 minutes minus 2 degree west. So, it will become as 32 degree, 30 minutes west. So, whenever you are solving the problem, if you solve the problem with diagram, then it's okay. But when you are giving in reduced bearing, it's my sincere request to convert into whole circle bearing and solve the problem. Now, what do you mean by dip? Dip is nothing but the inclination. So, dip is known as what, sir? It is the inclination of magnetic needle with respect to the horizontal. If suppose you find local attraction, I'll tell you local attraction also. Inclination of magnetic needle with respect to horizontal is known as a dip. And dip value, remember, dip value is 0 degrees. You can say dip value is 0 at equator and 90 degrees at poles. So, dip value is how much, sir? It is 90 degrees at poles and dip value is 0 degrees at equator. So, these also try to understand. Now, my dear students, when I talk about dip is the inclination of the magnetic needle with respect to the horizon. Now, what do you mean by isogonic line? Iso means same. A line joining points of same declination. A line joining points of same declination is known as isogonic line. And remember, my dear students, agonic line, a line joining points of 0 declination is known as agonic lines. Now, my dear students, if they ask you what is isoclinic line, a line joining or a line having same amount of dip, we call it as isoclinic line, and 0 amount of dip, aclinic line. 0 amount of dip is known as aclinic line. So, these are the names which are given. And in declination also we have diurnal variation, a variation which is in a day, or similarly a variation which is for every year, annual variation, and a variation which is for 250 years. Like you will see some solar eclipse or some kind of eclipses which are observed after 250 years. That is 250 years. Now, see students, what is local attraction? This is another important thing when you are solving the problem. See students, when local attraction, see here, this is an important. Actually, due to the influence of magnetic materials, the needle gets deviated. So, actually, this correction is important, my dear students. Remember, there are two stations. If back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180 degrees, if back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180 degrees, you can understand that no stations are affected by, local attraction. No stations are affected by what? No stations are affected by local attraction. Now, see students, this is important. Now, actually the correction and all, if see, usually the correction and error will be vice versa. That also you please remember. If suppose back bearing of AB minus fore bearing of AB is not equal to 180 degrees, then only station A can affect, or only B can affect. Both A and B can affect. So, there are 3 cases here. There are 3 cases which are going to affect. So, these things you have to remember. Okay. Now, my dear students, if you consider, there are a line like this. This is a bearing of a line. This is A, point B, and point C. If they ask you what is the angle of B, simply you can write angle of B is equal to back bearing of, please remember this students, back bearing of preceding line minus forebearing of succeeding line. If you follow these students, any angle you can know. Any formula for any finding out any angle, please follow this procedure. So what is back bearing here? Back bearing of AB is this one, my dear students. And what is forebearing of BC? This one. If you remove from white color this back bearing to BC, can't you get the angle B? So this funda you can apply everywhere. So I hope this is helpful. I'll be back in 2 minutes, my dear students. Please stay tuned. Now, my dear students, I would like to tell you very important thing. See, traversing is a very important topic and you will see a question from this topic, my dear student. So, what exactly is traversing? And you can, I promise you that after seeing this video, after the GATE exam, whatever I told you important, we can expect 95% probability of getting that question. So, what do you mean by traversing here is, to find the area of a field or anything, we called it as, we use the principles of traversing. What exactly is traversing? A group of survey lines connected together is nothing but traversing. What is a traversing, my dear students? A group of survey lines connected together. A group of survey lines connected together is known as, if we want to find out the group of survey lines connected together, that is nothing but through traversing. What is traversing? A group of survey lines connected together to form a closed loop is known as traversing. Now, when I talk about traversing here, suppose, my dear students, if we consider this as a survey line L, okay, usually the angle will be measured from north. This is north, theta. So, we call this thing as latitude. If you want to plot a point somewhere here, this is called as latitude, and this point, this segment, this distance is called as departure. So, if you know, actually we are habituated to represent latitude as L sin theta and departure as L cos theta. But here, if the angle is given from here, then that formula is correct. But here you should write L into sin 90 minus theta is known as L cos theta. So, L cos theta will be your latitude and L sin theta will be considered as departure. Okay. So, what is L cos theta and L sin theta? This is directly asked in one of the GATE exam, my dear students. So, L cos theta will be considered as latitude and L sin theta will be considered as departure. So, when I talk about L cos theta is latitude and L sin theta as departure, okay. Now, if you consider a closed traverse, my dear students, when there is a closed traverse, you should understand that again the same basic concept, where the condition for closed traverse is sum of latitudes will be positive 0 and sum of departures is equal to 0. So, my dear students, this is a very important thing. When a traverse, you remember this question, very important. When you say that a traverse is closed, sum of the latitudes will be equal to 0 and sum of the departures will be also equal to 0. So, here what I would like to tell you here is, sum of latitudes is equal to 0 and sum of departures is equal to 0. These are the two conditions in case of what, my dear students? These are the two conditions for a closed traverse. But my dear students, they can ask you what is the missing length. They can ask you in some of the case what is the missing length at the last. Or you can say, suppose there can be two cases. If you have traverse AB, BC, CD and DA, suppose, assume, and you have given, they have given theta 1, L1, theta 2, L2, C, theta 3, L3, but they can ask you what is the bearing end. So, by using these two equations, you can find out the bearing of DA and the length of the DA. So, here when we take it as an open traverse, my dear students, when I consider this as an open traverse here, okay, they can ask you what is the missing line here. So, you know already this is latitude and this is departure, right? So, from the right angle triangle, what will be this line? So, they can ask you what is closing error. Using the concept of closing error, the missing length can be found out. So, closing error E is equal to what, my dear students? E is equal to sum of latitude square plus sum of departure square. And this is a very important formula to find the closing error or any missing length like this. Now, my dear students, if you want to find out the relative closing error, suppose if they ask you what is relative closing error, So closing error, I have given the formula. Relative closing error is given by the formula error upon perimeter. So error upon perimeter is given by the formula relative closing error, that is E upon P, where E is the error and P is the perimeter. So I hope you are clear. Now my dear students, actually when I take a traverse here, this is very important. If I take this as northing, this as southing, this is easting and this is westing. If they ask you what is the bearing, how do you find out the bearing is tan theta can be taken as sigma d upon sigma L. Tan theta can be written as sigma, sum of the departure upon sum of latitude. Sum of departure is L sin theta. Departure is L sin theta. L is latitude is L cos theta. L cancels, sin theta by cos theta is tan theta. So to find out, but suppose if they have given northings or eastings, then latitude will be positive and departure will be also positive. L and D indicates latitude. If latitude is negative and departure is positive, okay, if you say latitude is negative and departure is positive, this indicates second quadrant. Both negative indicates third quadrant. When latitude is positive and departure negative, it indicates fourth quadrant. Why I am telling these coordinates is, if suppose my dear students, if you get a tan theta minus and positive, this indicates minus departure and this indicates positive. So which quadrant it is? So departure negative, which one? Departure negative is this one, but latitude is positive. So it is fourth quadrant. So even though you get here, you will get a value between 0 to 90 degrees. But when they say that it is fourth quadrant, you have to add 270 plus theta, that will be the bearing. I repeat the point again, my dear students. Based on the sum of the sum of latitudes and departures, you will identify which quadrant. If it is second quadrant, you will add 90 plus theta. If it is third quadrant, you will add 180 plus theta. If it is first quadrant, then you can directly adopt the theta. This is very important. When suppose they can ask you this also, my dear student. They will give you AB. They will give you north sum X and they will give you east, northing, easting, westing and south. And northing they can give you BC and similarly they can give you westing. Similarly BC, easting they can give you southing and they can give you CD and they can give you northing and they can give you westing. Similarly DA they can give you easting and southing. Okay, suppose these values are given, remember northings will be always taken as positive. So when you consider sum of the latitudes or sum of departures, northings will be considered as positive and southing will be taken as negative. In case of what? In case of latitude. So when you find sum of latitudes, you can write sum of the latitude is equal to sum of northings minus sum of southings. Similarly, if you want to find out sum of departures, you can write sum of easting minus sum of westing. So this is also the important formulas. Based on sigma D and sigma L, you can also find out the bearings and the closing error. Now, there was a question asked in one of the problem, my dear student. They will give you a coordinate of P and they will give you the coordinate of Q and they will give you the coordinates of R and they will give you the coordinates of T. Okay, they will give you the coordinates of S. So if they give you some coordinates of P as 200 or 400, this was a GATE 2021 question, I think. Okay, when they have given the coordinates of P, how do you find out the coordinates of here? For this concept, again engineering mathematics, transformation of axis. Suppose here, my dear students, if I take here origin as 0, 0. Suppose this axis has been shifted to here. What you will do? You will do here this distance as h and this distance as k. So the new axis will be taken as capital X is equal to small x plus h and capital Y is equal to small y plus k, which is known for the transformation of axis. The same concept. If you know this quadrant, here this coordinate is below. So you have to reduce the northing. From here you remove the sum. So you have to remove the sum of latitudes. That is, if suppose you will calculate sum of northing minus southing, you will get this value as negative. You have to remove. Similarly, it has moved towards this. So here sum of easting minus sum of westings will be positive. So whatever the value you got, sum of departures and sum of latitudes, you add to this thing algebraic. Sir, whenever you are taking sum of latitudes or departure, you have to consider the sign also. That is, so whenever you tell algebraic sign means it is, you have to consider positive sign as well as the negative sign. Now see students, there was a concept called Bordwitz rule. So when do you go with this Bordwitz rule is if the linear measurements and angular measurements are almost precise. In this case, the correction for latitude will be equal to sum of latitude into length upon perimeter, and correction for departure is equal to sum of departure into length upon perimeter. This is the formula which is adopted for Bordwitz rule. If they are almost of same precision, same accuracy, if linear measurements and angular measurements are of equal precision, then you can adopt Bordwitz rule. There is also called transit rule. You can say correction for latitude is equal to sigma L into L upon LT. Here what is LT means? Arithmetic sum, not algebraic sum. Here if you take, here it will be considered as arithmetic sum, and here also it will be taken as arithmetic sum. That is what I would like to tell you. Next, my dear students, see, these are the important things in traversing. So when I summarize here, when I talk about traversing and compass, what are the important points you have to remember here is, first you should know the difference between whole circle bearing and reduced bearing. Whole circle bearing is also known as azimuthal system, and reduced bearing is also known as quadral bearing. In whole circle bearing, it varies from 0 to 360. Whole circle varies from where to where? It varies from 0 to 360 degrees. And reduced bearing varies from 0 to 90 degrees. It varies from 0 to 360 and it varies from 0 to 90 degrees. Similarly, you should know angle. When you find any angle, you should know that angle is equal to back bearing of preceding line minus forebearing of succeeding line. This is how you find out the angle. Okay. Now, if you want to find out the declination, what do you mean by declination here is? Here declination is found out using it is the difference between true bearing minus magnetic bearing. Or you can say it is the difference between true bearing and magnetic bearing. So here you can write here true bearing is equal to magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. Here plus sign is used towards eastward and negative sign is used towards westward. So these things are very important when you are trying to learn. True bearing is equal to what, sir? True bearing is equal to magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. Plus sign is used towards eastward. As I told you, please adopt the formulas of whole circle bearing. You try to solve the problems in whole circle bearing. If the answer is in reduced bearing, then convert the final answer of whole circle bearing to reduced bearing. Now, my dear students, sum of latitudes is equal to 0, sum of departures is equal to 0 in case of a closed traverse. Here you should understand that when I talk about a closed traverse, you have to take northings will be taken as positive, sum of southings will be taken as negative, and northing and southing are latitudes. Okay, northing and southing are latitudes. When I talk about the departure, see student. 1 second, student. Okay. This is will be taken as latitudes. And when I talk about departures, easting will be taken as positive, westing will be taken as negative. Next thing what I would like to tell you here, important thing, my dear students, when there is a local attraction, you should understand that whenever there is a local attraction, back bearing minus forebearing is equal to 180 degrees, if I have taken, then you say that there is no local attraction. If it is not equal to 180, station A can affect, station B can affect, or both A and B can affect. This is another important thing. Is it clear, my dear students? So this all about the compass surveying and traverse surveying. Any doubts? Now coming to the chain surveying, my dear students. In chain surveying, I have observed that corrections are very, very important, my dear students. So what is a chain surveying? If anyone asks you what is the principle of chain surveying, you can say the principle of chain surveying is triangulation. Students, actually nowadays people are not enthusiasm towards the core knowledge. Actually, if you want to understand the civil engineering and mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, these are the core branches of engineering. These are the evergreen branches in the industry. Suppose if you want to understand now the principle has been moved to photogrammetry or we are moved to total station, but the underlying principle to develop the total station software will be developed. But to develop that software, you should have a knowledge on the surveying. So understand that core subject knowledge is very, very important. So my dear students, when you are preparing for GATE, don't ever think about the GATE exam only. Sir, I have attended this lecture. I have gone through some of the videos of IMS GATE Academy for civil and mechanical, and we are able to understand the application oriented. Suppose if you have attended surveying, I promise you that within the stipulated 2 hours of time, you will understand what actually is survey. So they started with the distance between 2 points, then compass, that bearing, then theodolite for vertical and horizontal, then they have come up with total station. They have also, to store this entire data, there should be some database, that is geographic information system. And if you want to do from aerial survey, we are come up with photogrammetry, or nowadays you are using the Ola and Uber cabs. They are using the principles of GPS. If you want to find that is global positioning system, what is the minimum number? So here my intention in this webinar, in this session on quick revision through formulas is civil and mechanical. We are doing our best to give our best of knowledge, and these sessions will really helpful. As I told you already, if you are watching this channel, please like and share this session. Our intention is not doing any kind of marketing, but our intention is within this stipulated time, at least some of the students can be qualified for GATE. That is the main agenda of this quick revision through formulas. So when I talk about the chain surveying, we have one is correction for standardization. Correction for standardization. So correction for standardization. So when I talk about the correction for standardization is given as correction per chain length upon total length measured by small l. So you can ask me, if they can tell you, if the chain is too large. If the chain is too large, the measured distance will be less. So error will be negative. So correction should be positive. So this is how important. If the chain is too large, you will, whatever the measure you will measure, the distance will be less. So error will be negative. So correction will be positive. So here that thing also you should understand. And correction will be if the chain is large, or they can say chain is too long. If the chain is too small, the correction will be negative. So error, these are for what, my dear students? So what I would like to understand for you is either remember error or correction, but don't try to remember, because correction and error are vice versa. So here what is CA? It is the correction per chain length. What is capital L? Capital L is the total length which you are going to measure. What is small l? Small l is the designated length of the chain. Usually the chain lengths will be 30 meter or 20 meter. So here my intention of explaining the topic is the correction for chain length is this. So my dear students, there is a chapter wise connection question. There was a beautiful question asked in one of the GATE exam. They will apply 2-3 errors at a time, and they will frame one thing. I am climbing a mountain, means it was a slope. So in that case, you have to understand the importance that you have to go with correction for slope. So next thing is correction for slope. Next thing what I would like to tell you is correction for slope. So whenever you are talking about correction for slope, my dear students, Here correction for slope is given by the formula L into 1 minus cos theta, or they can give you L into L minus root over L minus H square, or they can give you H square upon 2L. So these are the formulas for correction for slope. And whenever you are discussing the correction for slope, my dear students, I would like to tell you one important is L into 1 minus cos theta, L minus root over L minus H square, or H square upon 2L. So when you are talking about the correction for slope, what I would like to tell you is this correction is always negative. Why it is always negative? When there is a horizontal line, my dear student, if it is means there is some slope, definitely this line will be more than this. So error will be positive, correction will be negative. So correction for slope, this is the thing, and correction for slope is always negative. Next one we have is correction for sag. When do you say that correction for sag is? Suppose, my dear students, if you have a cover transmission towers, these are considered as what? These are considered as transmission towers. Initially the wires should be straight. But after some time these wires are sagged. So correction for sag is always negative, and the formula for correction for sag is W square L upon 24 N square P square. So if you ask me what is W, W is nothing but the weight of the tape, or L is the total length, N is number of base. What is N? N is nothing but the number of base. And what is P, sir? P is nothing but the applied pull. So here this, and why correction for sag is negative? Because this length will be always more than the actual length. So error will be positive and the correction will be negative. Next, after correction for sag, we have a correction for temperature. So if you see railway rails, in that you will see some space. So correction for temperature, see my dear students, correction for temperature can be both positive or it can be negative. So here it is given by the formula L alpha delta T, that is Tm minus T naught. So if the Tm is greater than T naught, correction is positive. If Tm is less than T naught, correction is negative. What is L? Length. Alpha is coefficient of thermal expansion, which is measured per degree Celsius. What is Tm? It is the time during measurement, or sorry, temperature during measurement. 1 second, students. It is the temperature during, measurement. And what is T naught? This is known as standard temperature. This is known as the standard temperature. So what is correction for temperature is? Correction for temperature is given as L alpha Tm minus T naught, and Tm greater than T naught, correction will be positive, and Tm less than T naught, correction will be negative. Next. Now, correction for misalignment. Suppose if you want to measure the distance between 2 points here, you have to measure in this way, but actually you will measure in this way. So you can say this is L1 and this is L2, and you can say this as H. In that case, correction for misalignment can be taken as this is theta 1, this is theta 2. This can be taken as correction for misalignment L1 into 1 minus cos theta 1 plus L2 into 1 minus cos theta 2. That means correction for slope you are applying twice, or you can write it as H square by 2L1 approximate formula, or H square by 2L2. This is how the correction for misalignment, and correction for misalignment is always negative. So these also you have to remember, my dear students. How the correction is positive or negative based on the length measured, you can decide. Now the next thing what I would like to discuss here is the last one, correction for, you can say, see here, whenever you can say correction for MSL, or you can say correction for mean sea level. So correction for mean sea level is given by the formula LH upon R. Suppose the correction will be negative. Here also it is positive or negative. See, correction will be negative if the object is above sea level. And if the object is below mean sea level, correction will be positive. So these, remember these formulas for all the things. I'll write it in one slide. So here write down correction for standardization. CA into L by L. Correction for standardization. Correction for standardization is what? It can be either positive or it can be negative. Next, correction for slope. It can be taken as L into 1 minus cos theta, or it can be taken as h square by 2L, or it can be taken as L minus root over L square minus h square. It is always negative. Correction for sag is always negative. It will be taken as W square L upon 24 N square P square. This is the correction for slope. Now, correction for sag. Similarly, if I take correction for misalignment, it will be taken as L1 into 1 minus cos theta 1 plus L2 into 1 minus cos theta 2. And remember, correction for temperature, that will be taken as, here also it is negative. It can be positive or negative. Correction for temperature is L alpha Tm minus T naught. And correction for mean sea level is LH by R. This can be also positive or negative. So these are the important corrections which you have to remember. And another important correction, my dear students, correction for pull is given by the formula P minus P naught into L upon AE. If the pull is more than the standard pull, then the correction will be positive. If the P is less than the standard pull, the correction will be negative. Please take a screenshot of this. You will definitely helpful. And after the GATE exam, if you have a GATE question from this, please let me know. And please give me a thumbs up after that. Now see, my dear students, what I would like to tell you here is, now we have discussed the corrections for chain survey. Actually, there is a concept called limiting length of offset. Now, my dear students, when they ask you the formula of what is the limiting length of offset, okay, what is the limiting length of offset is given as SR upon 40 root 2. So, 40 root 2. So, this is the limiting length of offset formula. What is S here? What is S is nothing but scale which is expressed in 1 in S, and R is nothing but the degree of accuracy. R is nothing but degree of accuracy which is expressed also in 1 in R, or R can be taken as cosec theta. So R can also be taken as cosecant theta, which is an important formula. So please write down these formulas. You will be helpful for chain surveying. I hope you are clear with this chain surveying. Is it clear, my dear students? Next one we are going to discuss here is the curves. Before moving to curves, I'll give you 1 minute of time, student. Take a break for 1 minute. Okay, my dear students, now I am going to discuss about the topic curves. I hope I am audible. Okay. Audible, students? Okay. Now, what is curve? Actually, curves are used to change the direction of a curves are used to change the direction of a highway or a railway. Curves are used to change the direction of a highway or a railway. Curves are used to change the direction of a highway or a railway. Now see students, when I talk about the curves, see here, if we consider this as a curve, okay, these points try to intersect at some point here, and this is called the point of curvature. Sorry. One second, student. Okay, now see students, we will talk about what actually tangent length. What is the length of tangent? Okay, when I talk about the length of the tangent, okay. Now see students, this we will take it as T1, this is T2, and this is origin, and this is R, and this is delta by 2, this is delta by 2, and this is known as delta. Okay, now how do you know length of the tangent is this VT1? Okay. So here, what is VT1? Length of the tangent, and length of the tangent is given by the formula R tan delta by 2. Okay, very important formula. So what is this point called? This is called POC, point of curve. What actually POC, point of curve, means? It is the point where tangent becomes a curve. Okay, and here this is called point of tangent. It is the point where curve becomes a tangent. So if we consider here, this is called the length of chord. So this is called length of the chord. I will tell you in the next slide. Suppose they can ask you length of tangent, my dear student. They can give you what is the length of tangent. What is the length of the tangent? Length of the tangent is given by the formula R tan delta by 2. Length of the tangent is given by the formula R tan delta by 2. Next, length of the chord. Length of the chord is given by the formula. Length of the chord is given by the formula 2R sin delta by 2. Length of the chord is given by the formula 2R sin delta by 2. Similarly, they can ask you what is apex distance. Apex distance means it is the distance from midpoint of the curve to point of intersection, this distance. This is given by the formula R secant delta by 2 minus 1. This is R secant delta by 2 minus 1 is apex distance. Next, similarly, if they ask you, this is the length of the chord, this is apex distance, and this is the length of the tangent, they can ask you what is mid-ordinate distance. What is mid-ordinate distance? Mid-ordinate distance can be taken as R into 1 minus cos delta by 2. Mid-ordinate distance can be taken as R into 1 minus cos delta by 2. Similarly, they can give you, they can ask you here, another important formula is length of the curve. What is the length of curve? Remember, my dear students, length of the curve is given by the formula pi r delta upon 180 degrees. Length of the curve is given by the formula pi r delta upon 180 degrees. Am I clear, my dear students? So here you should understand what are the different formulas which are given. See, length of the curve means, see, my dear students, if this is a basic mathematics, if there is a radius r and if the angle is delta, what is the length of the curve? It is nothing but r delta. But to convert the degrees into radians, we have divided it pi by 180. So I hope you are clear with these formulas. Okay. Next, see students, what is a contour? What is a contour? Or they can ask you one more thing, my dear students, here. Another important point they can ask you here is, what is point of curve? Chain is of V minus length of the tangent. If they ask you what is point of tangency, chain is of point of curve plus length of the curve. Okay, next, what is a contour? A contour is an imaginary line. A contour is an imaginary line. A contour is an imaginary line joining the points of, a contour is an imaginary line joining the points of equal elevation. A contour is an imaginary line joining the points of what? Equal elevation. Now, my dear students, contour has various applications. You can find out the drainage capacity, you can find out the drainage capacity, volume of a reservoir and all. Now, in contours, we have one is contour gradient. So, contour gradient is defined as the ratio of contour interval upon horizontal equivalent. What is CI called? Contour gradient is defined as the ratio of contour interval upon horizontal equivalent. For maps, we are supposed to maintain constant contour interval. When the maps are supposed to maintain constant contour interval, then they are well appreciated. Means you can view the things very clearly. The next thing what I would like to tell you is two contour lines never intersect each other. Two contour lines, this is the properties of contours. They can ask you in assertion and reasoning. Two contour lines never intersect each other except in the case of a overhanging cliff. Except in the case of a overhanging cliff. What is cliff? Cliff is nothing but mountain. Except in the case of a overhanging cliff or a mountain, two contours never intersect. So here I would like to ask you one more important thing, my dear students. What is the most important thing I would like to tell you is, these things is very important, my dear student. See, suppose if you have a contour, I'll ask you, these are the different contours. You have some values 100, 105, 110. Sorry, if it is 110. So here they can ask you, okay. Now see students, if I have a graph like this. Now suppose if I have a 100, here it is 100, here it is 105, I am drawing a graph. Here it is 110. So here it is 100 means here, 100 means here, 105 means here, 105 means here, 110 means somewhere here and somewhere here. So if you join this curve, what does this represent? It represents a valley. So what does valley represents means? Higher values outside, lower values inside. Higher values outside and lower values inside represents a valley. Similarly, here what I would like to tell you here is, suppose if you are having a contour value, suppose if you are having here, this is 100, 105 and here it is 110. Suppose see here, if it is 100 and this is 105 and this is 110. 100 represents here, 105 represents here, 110 represents here. So here if we consider here, so if you join this with a smooth curve, it represents a hill. So higher values inside, smaller values outside represents a hill. Lower values inside, higher values outside represents a valley. So in watershed analysis also, in watershed Analysis also, these things are helpful. Now, my dear students, when you calculate the volumes by area and volumes, suppose what is the area of triangle or rectangle and all, they can ask you how do you calculate the volumes using trapezoidal rule. So you can write here h by 2, okay, first ordinate plus last ordinate, first area plus last area into twice the remaining areas will give you the volume for using which law? Using trapezoidal rule. Okay, this is for trapezoid. If they give you Simpson rule is also called as prismoidal rule. Simpson rule is also called as prismoidal rule. Here volume is equal to h by 3 into first area plus last area plus twice the odd ordinates plus 4 times the even ordinates. You will get the volume. So this is how you have to remember the volumes by area, trapezoidal rule as well as the Simpson rule. Is this clear? Now we are going to the leveling topic, my dear students. When I talk about the leveling, now see, suppose there can be a surface. If I assume this surface, there can be some points above the surface, there can be some points below the surface. So leveling, if you want to join the points of same elevation, leveling will help you. So to understand the elevation of a point, leveling will help you. Suppose, my dear students, I have a question for you. What do you mean by foresight? Okay. A site which is taken for unknown elevation. A site which is taken for unknown elevation is known as foresight. And what do you mean by backside? If they ask you what do you mean by backside, backside is a site taken for backside is a site taken for known elevation. Whatever the benchmark and all will be taken as the backside only. A site or a reading, a staff reading for known elevation is backside. For unknown elevation, it is foresight. Similarly, my dear students, what I would like to tell you is, if this is an instrument, suppose if you have an area like this, suppose you will have readings like this. See here, if there is a low fall, the staff reading will be more. This is another important. Usually people tend to don't understand when they will have high reading. Higher readings will be observed when there is a fall and lower readings when there is a rise. So whatever see there is a here also there is something, and here you are changing the instrument. Suppose this first point whatever you have taken here, if I take this as a benchmark, my dear student, the first reading will be taken as backside and the remaining station here reading this one, this, okay, up to these two will be taken as intermediate site reading. The last reading will be the foresight just before the change of the instrument. So this is how you have to understand. Now, my dear students, if there are more number of points, usually rise and fall method is used. In rise and fall method, as I told you, you have to understand that sum of backside minus sum of the foresight is equal to, in height of instrument, you can write last RL minus first RL. This is the one you will use in height of instrument. In addition to this, you can write sum of the rise minus sum of fall. This is the formula for rise and fall method. Okay, this is the formula for what, sir? Rise and fall method. Now, my dear students, you can write height of instrument is equal to RL plus backside. Height of the instrument is equal to RL plus backside. Now, RL of any point is equal to height of the instrument minus foresight or intermediate site. These things also will help you to solve the problems. Is this clear, my dear students? Height of the instrument is equal to RL plus backside. Now, similarly, we have a concept called reciprocal leveling. So, what do you mean by reciprocal leveling here is, when I talk about reciprocal leveling, see students, what do you mean? Suppose if they have a river, okay, you have a station A and you will have a station B. You will set up a station near to the station A and you will take the readings of A and B. Similarly, you will place a statement near to B and you will take the readings of A and B. So, in this case, how do you find out the average is the difference in the mean, the difference in elevations plus the mean of their things will be taken as the elevation. So, this is what reciprocal leveling means. Is this clear? Now, my dear students, next thing is coefficient of curvature. So when they ask you, sorry, correction for curvature, sorry, not coefficient, you can say correction for curvature. Correction for curvature is always negative and it is given by the formula d square by 2r. Similarly, correction for refraction, it is positive, my dear students. So here it is equal to 1 by 7 d square by 2r. This is positive. Okay, when they ask you combined correction, they can ask you what is the combined correction, and the combined correction is taken by the formula minus 6 by 7 d square by 2r. This is the formula for combined correction, that is minus 6 by 7 d square by 2r. Is this clear, my dear students? So next thing what I would like to tell you is, next, when you are adopting correction for curvature or correction for, okay, sorry. Now see student, there was a question here. A man standing on top of a ship, here there is a ship, sees a top of a lighthouse. Okay, they can ask you what is the distance between them. So if, see, the question here is a man stands on a top of a height. They will give you the height of the man, h1, and sees the lighthouse, h2. They will ask you what is the distance between the man and the lighthouse. So in this case, the distance between, whatever the distance d is, simplified thing is 3.854 into root h1 plus root h2, where h1 and h2 will be substituted in meters and you will get the distance in kilometers. So this is a simplified formula where you can adopt, or my dear students, you can use the combined correction formula also to find out this problem separately. But I personally suggest you, this will help you. Okay, if they have not given the height of the man, you can directly take this. So again I will write this. Suppose if a man sits on top of a ship, sees a top of a lighthouse, what is the distance between these two? So this one will be h1 and this one will be h2. The distance will be taken as d is equal to 3.854 into root h1 plus root h2, where h1 and h2 will be substituted in meters, and you will get the answer d in kilometers. Is this clear, my dear students? Is this clear? Now, so we are done with the correction. Similarly, they can ask you what is sensitivity also upon. So sensitivity alpha is given by L by R or S upon ND 206265 seconds. This sensitivity is nothing but the angular division of one bubble. The angular division of one bubble is given as sensitivity. So this is given by L by R or S by ND. Okay, S by ND or 206265 seconds. Okay. Now see students, they can give you one problem here also. Now suppose see students, here we have this is called I. This I is known as stadia intercept. What is I, my dear students? I is known as stadia intercept. Okay. This is known as staff intercept. S is known as staff intercept. We have a distance here, F1, and we have here you will have the instrument. Here you will have the instrument. We assume this is optical center O. Okay, this is F2. What is F1? F1 is the focal length of object. What is F1, my dear students? F1 is the focal length of object. What is F2? Focal length of the eyepiece. Okay. Here, my dear students, you should know according to the principle of optics. So here if I see the distance between them is small d, and if you, the distance from the station to this you should know. Okay. Now here what I would like to tell you here is, According to the principle of optics, focal length can be written as 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. The focal length can be written as, according to the optics, 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. The distance between instrument, distance between instrument and staff, the distance between instrument and staff can be taken as D is equal to Ks plus C. The distance between instrument D can be taken as Ks plus C. So when I take the distance between the instrument, D will be taken as what? Ks plus C. So here what I would like to tell you. So here the line of sight is horizontal. We have taken that line of sight is horizontal. Now when I take the line of sight as horizontal, here K is called multiplying constant. So usually the multiplying constant is given by the formula F upon I. What is F? Focal length upon stadia intercept. And what is additive constant? C is given as focal length plus D. D is the distance from the instrument and all. So this is what this is called as, C is known as focal length plus D and C is known as additive constant. D is known as, C is known as additive constant. So here you are clear about multiplying constant and additive constant. Now see students, suppose we have a thing like this, staff here. Okay, we have an instrument here like this. Now they can ask you, this is the point P and this is the point Q. Okay, here the line of sight is horizontal. Here the line of sight is horizontal. So here what you can write is L is equal to Ks cos theta plus C. Ks cos theta plus C when line of sight is inclined. What is L? Okay. Now, how do you find out the distance D? Okay, how do you find out the distance D? And this distance will be R and this distance will be V. From the diagram, it is evident that D is equal to what? D is equal to L cos theta because this is cos theta, student. D will be equal to L cos theta and V is equal to L sin theta. Now, my dear students, what will be the RL of Q? This is P and this is Q. What will be the RL of Q? So, RL of Q can be taken as RL of P plus this one is height of the instrument. RL of P plus H plus V minus R. So here you can write RL of P plus H plus V minus R will be the RL of Q. So this is nothing but finding out the elevation. So you know RL of P, add to the H, you will get here. And to find out this distance, how do you find out this distance, my dear students? It is nothing but V minus R. This will be equal to V minus R. That's what I have written here. So if you know the diagram, how do you solve the problem? In case of line of sight inclined, easily you can do. Now, my dear students, the same problem, if I take here, suppose the instrument is somewhere here, okay, the line of sight is inclined and we have a staff here. This is P and this is Q. Now, what will be the readings, my dear students? So, this is the height of the reading, R. Now, see students, the readings, here it can be V and this is R. So, the same formulas you can adapt, but RL of Q will change here. Formulas will be there, same. RL of Q will be RL of P, sorry, this is H, my dear students, sorry. RL of Q will be equal to RL of P plus H minus V minus R. See, my dear students, here the case is angle of depression. Here the case is angle of depression. The condition is line of sight inclined. In the case of angle of depression, V will be replaced by what, my dear students? V will be replaced by minus V. When V is replaced by minus V, we are saying that the RL of Q is equal to P plus H minus V minus R. This will be the RL of Q. This will be the RL of Q. Clear, my dear students? Is it clear? Any doubts in this? Next, C student. In all these two cases, here the staff, you can write another important case. Here the staff is held vertical. The important case is line of sight inclined and the staff held vertical. Staff held vertical. Now, my dear students, if I say line of sight inclined, but staff held normal. Now, see students, when line of sight, now if this line of sight is inclined, is telling. Now, here the staff is in this way. Okay. Here we have readings like this. Okay. This is R and this is theta. According to geometry, this will be also theta and this will be R sin theta and this will be R cos theta. So, whatever the distance here, D will be equal to, according to the formula, D is equal to L cos theta plus R sin theta. And C students, this is the formula for D. Now, if they ask you what is the RL of Q, this is P. As you know already, RL of Q is equal to what? RL of Q is equal to RL of P plus H plus V minus R cos theta, because the vertical distance is R cos theta. So, here based on the diagrams, you have to understand. Similarly, if you know the trigonometry also, this same if you know, they can give you angles in this way and they can ask you what is this distance, or they can give you two stations at different things and they can give you the angles and they will ask you what is the distance between. So, by basic principles of trigonometry, you will be clear. So, students, I hope, see, in surveying, actually in surveying, my dear students, you can expect 4 marks. Okay. My sincere suggestion for you to focus more on these topics. Actually, it doesn't mean that you should not read the other topics, but please make a focus on this. First one is compass surveying, traverse surveying, okay, corrections formula, that is error due to wrong scale, corrections for next leveling, this leveling topic, and also you can understand the tachometry which I have shown you now, the central air reading and all, and photogrammetry. So, these are the sessions, these are the topics. After the GATE exam, just compare this slide, you will definitely get 2-4 marks from these topics mostly. Now, my dear students, I hope you are enjoying the sessions of IMS GATE Academy. And if you are a student from Bangalore or Vijayawada or from Ahmedabad, we have our own offline centers at Bangalore. We are completely providing the offline center at Bangalore, and we are also providing the offline coaching at Vijayawada. So, students, if you really like these sessions, please like and share. And some of my colleagues, like we have Mr. Pratik, he is one of my teammate, and we also have Ankit Dongrial and we have Vijay Kumar sir. So, all these as a civil and mechanical team, we are planning much more videos coming shortly in the month of February first week or in the January end. We as a team will come live to explain you the last 10 days preparation continuously, how to make the best preparation. Definitely one day we will explain you the strategy, how you have to apply for the GATE exam, and the other day we will be discussing about the topics, weightage. And now my dear students, it's my sincere request for all of you, don't go for the topics which you don't know. Just revise the topics, make a short notes, prepare the previous test series, previous 20-year questions and go through the short notes. And we will be coming live with a civil engineering team definitely in couple of days, and we will explain you the how based on each and every subject. Me, Pratik, and Pratik sir, and also Ankit will be joining as a team. And I think mechanical team is also having that plans. We all as a come for each and every branch in live, and we will explain you the strategy sitting together, and we will explain you what should be the best strategy and how best you can revise the topics in a quick time. So I hope you are enjoying these sessions, and please subscribe our channel, like and share our channel. I don't want to tell more on this marketing kind of stuff, but still what I would like to tell you is, because in Bangalore and Vijayawada, we are the only offline center we are providing. So if you are really interested for GATE, this is the right place. And if you really like this session, students, please share to your friends, because within 2 hours of time, they get the entire knowledge so that they can quickly go through the notes and they can start solving the previous 20 years and they can attempt the test series also. And IMS GATE Academy proudly say that we have one-to-one mentorship, that is the which is the only means we are providing that one-to-one mentorship for each and every students with an allocated time. So this opportunity also please try to utilize, and thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity. Okay, I hope you are enjoying this session. Have a nice day and all the best for grade 23. Thank you.